at like over under 9 games, whatever, 9.5. I kind of like to do not. This isn't like a Vegas odds thing, but I was like, 9 games, a little over half of the season. Like that kind of seems like a good number to put it at. Do you think he plays over 9 games, Brock Purdy? And if they somehow manage to keep him healthy the whole year, what is the potential of this team? And the reason why I say this is Jimmy Garoppolo, the 1 year that the Niners kept a quarterback healthy the whole year, they made it to the Super Bowl. And as far as like the chemistry of the team, it really helps to have one quarterback healthy the whole year. So, yeah, what's your thoughts on this?
I'm going to be optimistic and say I think he'll play more than 9.5 games, although I wouldn't bet money on it. Like, I'm not crazy. But I'm going to say I think he will. And like you mentioned, when Jimmy Garoppolo was coming off his torn ACL, Kyle Shanahan had sort of a conservative approach, like, hey, this guy's not 100% back. He struggled a little bit in camp. Mm-hmm. Let's run the ball. And that's the season they started 8-0. That's the season they went to the Super Bowl. The Niners could do the same thing with Brock Purdy because they've done it before. I just feel like Kyle Shanahan is much more invested in, although they gave Jimmy all that money, but he always did it like kicking and screaming. Like he's more invested in Brock than Jimmy. He always feel like he was betting against Jimmy, like he was saddled with Jimmy and betting against him and wanting to prove that Jimmy wasn't good enough. But he said Brock Purdy's the real deal. He got rid of Trey Lance. He got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. Like this is his choice. And I think he's going to be like, how when he traded for Christian McCaffrey, they gave him like 30 carries a game and all the goal line carries. And it was so evident, like he's trying to justify all that he gave up and be like, see, it was a good trade. It was a good trade. It was a good trade. Like, sure. Yeah. Great. Just keep him healthy. With Brock, I feel like it's going to be a lot of that too. Like a lot of passing, a lot of trying to like goose up his numbers so that you justify the Trey Lance thing, the Jimmy thing. And okay, you can do that, but the more you drop him back, the more 7-step drops you call from under center, the more you expose him behind Colt McKivitz and Spencer Burford, all these guys, like, the more likely he's going to get hurt.
I feel like as far as like, how Jimmy Garoppolo did I interrupt or
no, it was good timing. Okay. I was wrapping up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like with the Jimmy Garoppolo thing, like after the ACL surgery, the confidence was not there. I think the reason why some of what Kyle's basis on, on saying that Brock Purdy is the real deal is he was saying this guy has the confidence that Jimmy Garoppolo or no other quarterback does. I don't know. I mean,
game.
To me,
so he gets hit in the mouth.
True.
We'll see what happens. You know what I mean?
To me, though, we'll see. But to me, right now, like that last, was it that last preseason game that he ran for a touchdown? He acted like nothing had ever happened.
Yeah, but let's just keep in mind that he was going against the Chargers backups, and now he's going to face the Steelers starters for 4 quarters.
True.
Man, he's going to take some hits.
Lining up.
Yeah, he's going to take some hits in this game. Can he get through week 1? Let's see.
Well, and in a way, it's like I think the experience is going to be there for sure more. I mean, obviously, him stepping up in the pocket wasn't all the reason why he got injured, but it probably was definitely a part of it. And so maybe the Niners, and another thing I could see the Niners doing is more maybe going back to the more of the shotgun offense that they did with Jimmy Garoppolo as well, And so that's
I don't know. I feel like part of the thing with Brock Purdy is that Kyle loves getting him under center, rolling him to the left.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. Like that whole roll to the left game is huge. It's a new part of the offense that Jimmy didn't really do well, and Brock does very well. So I don't know, man. I think this is Kyle leaning into his scheme. He couldn't run his system the way he wanted to run it with Jimmy Garoppolo because Jimmy can't move, and Jimmy wants to be in the shotgun, and Jimmy made a lot of money, and Jimmy demanded concessions, but Brock has no leverage. He just does what Kyle says, and I think you're going to see Kyle like sort of geek out on his scheme this year and try to put up really good numbers to justify. He's under fire right now. He's almost on the hot seat. True. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So I feel like you're going to see Kyle try to like shut that up, and he's going to try to have the offense go crazy this year. And they were scoring 35 points a game last year, but let's see you keep your quarterback healthy. That's the whole thing. And the running back too, McCaffrey and Purdy. You got to keep them both healthy the whole year. Otherwise, you're not going to win the Super Bowl. Both of them.
That's true. Well, and another thing is like you go this year, it's like the Eagles schedule is way harder, I think, than the Niners. They have like 6 games in a row where they played the Cowboys, Chiefs, Bills, Niners, all like 6 games in a row. You have the first at least 4 weeks, I think, defensive lines. I mean, Steelers defensive line is good, But then you have Rams, Giants, Cardinals, Browns is okay, Vikings is okay. I mean, that's like the first 7 weeks, Browns, Vikings. So the defensive lines that they have to face earlier on definitely will be favorable towards the Niners as well. And I just think that when Brock Purdy, like it's important to have a young quarterback coming off of an injury, and he's facing the defensive lines week, like Steelers defensive line week 1 will be hard, but then he kind of gets to ease into it a little bit. I do think Kyle will be in his bag early on because they can't start off slow. So
don't you think it's kind of funny how they ran Trey Lance out of town because he's just too young, he's not ready. You can't expect a quarterback like him to lead a team like this to a Super Bowl. So they went with a quarterback who's literally 6 months older than him.
Yeah.
Okay, who has like 4 more career starts and also is coming off a huge injury this year. And like, yeah, he's obviously much more NFL ready than Trey, but he's still a 23-year-old quasi rookie. And there's only been one 23-year-old quarterback who's ever won a Super Bowl. So yeah, like they have a better chance to win a Super Bowl with Brock than with Trey. But really, if you step back, it's kind of not putting their best foot forward at the most important position. Like if Brock Purdy doesn't win a Super Bowl this year, could you really blame him? And what's crazy is if he doesn't win a Super Bowl this year, let's say if he misses a playoff or doesn't win a playoff game, man, he could be out and they could bring in Kirk Cousins.
That's right.
All because 23-year-old Brock couldn't get the job done. Like, is that fair? But that's where they're at, and that's the pressure he's under.
Well, and this was a topic that I didn't have for the show, but the Niners, 10 wins isn't going to get it done this year. Because you look at the NFC, the Packers, Jordan Love was a huge question mark. He's had a really good preseason, and for all accounts that I've heard, he's doing like really good. So Jordan Love could be something. And so now all of a sudden the Packers are contenders again. Then you have the Giants, you have the Falcons who have tons of weapons. So like all of these teams that are considered bottom of the tier NFC teams are now like, they're starting to gain. So the Niners, we're thinking, oh, NFC is a little bit weak. Well, I think that's an underrated story. Will the Niners not only be able to win the division because they do have a harder schedule than the Seahawks, but also even make the NFC because they're going to have to get to 10 wins at least to make the NFC, in my opinion. So,
yeah, they're going to have to win a lot of games in the Central and Eastern, in the Eastern time zone. Cleveland, Jacksonville, Washington, Pittsburgh, Philly, like those are long trips. You didn't have a lot of those last year. You went on that long. I mean, like, they keep falling back on what we won. How many games in a row do they win? They win 13 games in a row, something like that, like 10 games in a row. Cool. You barely traveled. You were at home. Like, and even when you're on the road, you were at home. Week 1, you're on the other side of the country in a real road game with like a real loud crowd. Last time you faced something like that, it was over before it started.
The Cardinals game was in Mexico, but that was easy home game. Yeah.
Easy home game. Like the only legit road games they had last year were like the Seahawks, Denver, Philly. Is that it? It might have been it. 3.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, that's true.
Pretty much. This year, like Philly's legit, Pittsburgh's legit, Minnesota's a real home game. Forget Cleveland. I mean, I don't know about Cleveland, but forget Jacksonville. Washington. That's
do the Niners play
Dallas
in Cowboys in Dallas?
No, home.
Okay.
Home.